Hello again, YouTubers. This is Evenball. It is Sunday, April 27th, 2014, and I have another batch of games here for you. So let's get right on it. The first game is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team. Yeah, the label is not in the best of shape, but I'm sure the game will work just fine. Anyways, moving on. Alright, so I was driving around this week and I see that the Boom City Swap Meet has started this weekend. So I went in there and there weren't a whole lot of people selling, but I did find one thing that I wanted, and that is this TI-99/4A. It's a little computer from Texas Instruments. This was my first console, basically. It's not really a console, it's more of a computer, but it does take cartridges just like any other console. And these were, well, they're not the best, but they were pretty good. They had a 16-bit processor, although the bus was 8-bit, so everything was slowed down by the bus. And it had the same graphics and sound chips that were in the ColecoVision. So, you know, this thing was fairly capable. In fact, we had Qbert on this thing, and it was almost arcade perfect. It was an extremely good version of Qbert, and I loved playing it back in the mid-'80s. And Alpiner, I also had that game. I do need to get that one. This has no power supply, though, so I'm going to have to wait until I can get this thing up and running. I could not find the power supply. The person who sold it to me said it was there, but I could not find it anywhere. So I'm going to have to wait on that. It shouldn't be too tough finding a power supply, but I'll see if I can find one for a reasonable price. This was only $4, so that wasn't a bad deal at all for one of these old systems. And along with that, I also found this at a Goodwill, just an Atari joystick. I don't know, I think it might be for one of those flashbacks, but it seems about the right size, so I don't know, it might be an actual Atari joystick. It just says Atari on it. Not bad for $4. This cost as much as this did, so that's how much they like to mark up at this Goodwill, but still, I've been looking for one of these and glad to finally get one. Alright, next up we have one Super Nintendo game, Bugs Bunny Rabbit Rampage. And, well, I went up to Value Village and there was only one Super Nintendo game there. There was nothing else that told me there were any other 16-bit games, but I did find this one. I didn't have this one before, so thought I'd get it. You know, it's not really a bad game. It is a bit flawed, though. But as you can see, the graphics on this game are actually pretty good. It's the cartoon basically fully realized and looks great. All the levels are basically based off of old Bugs Bunny cartoons. And everything looks great, but it doesn't play all that great. It's got a lot of the problems a lot of like Western developed 16-bit games had. I don't know if this was developed in the West or not, but it kind of seems like it. There's all sorts of collision detection problems. You know, it's just too easy to get hit. Your weapon doesn't go far enough. Things like that. But you know, it's not that bad. It's still a lot of fun to play. I don't mind it at all. The next game is Twisted Metal 2. A very popular game from the PlayStation in its early days, and playing it a little bit, I can see why. The game is quite a bit of fun. The graphics are pretty good for an early PlayStation 2 game. Frame rate is at a decent pace. All the cars look great. The battlefield is perfectly 3D, and everything just runs perfectly. Everything controls perfectly too. When you want to turn around, you don't have to turn around a long way. When you turn around, your car does a perfect stop and it turns right back around, making everything a whole lot easier for you. basically that is the way a car in this type of game should work, and I'm glad they made it that way. This game is a lot of fun, and I'm going to be playing it quite a bit, I think. Alright, moving right along, I have some more. Alright, moving right along, we have Viewtiful Joe 2. Yeah, this was kind of a deal back in the day. There were 3 of these games, and there was even an anime for a little while that was kind of cute. This game has a kind of a comic book meets movie look to it. It looks great, actually. I like the cell shading and everything about it. It's a lot of fun to play as well, and that's the important part. I do need to get the first and the third versions, though. This is the only one I've got so far, but they're not rare at all, so I should be able to get them, no problem. Game looks great, and it plays great as well, so you can't lose with this one. Alright, moving right along, we have Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes for the Gamecube. I have 2 Gamecube games this week, and this was quite a deal. Now, normally I do not buy Player's Choice games. I avoid them like the plague. I don't like that yellow label. And I also don't buy games normally that don't have their instructions. I've got too many of those, and it's a pain to find the instructions for these games. But that said, it's $10. I really couldn't pass up on that deal. I don't see this under $25 normally, so it's just too good of a deal to pass up. This is, of course, a remake of Metal Gear Solid for the PS1, and it's a pretty good remake. A lot of people gave it a lot of guff for going a little too far on those pre-rendered cutscenes. Well, they're not pre-rendered, they're just cutscenes, but I don't mind it all that much. I mean, they go overboard, but it's not too bad, I don't think. It doesn't really detract from the gameplay as far as I'm concerned. So, I'm going to enjoy this one. I played through it a little bit, but I'm going to give it a solid playthrough one of these days here. And the final game here is a kind of difficult to find game. Haunting Ground on the PlayStation 2. Yeah, that's kind of a difficult one to find. It is... it's a game that will set you back about $50 or more on eBay and Amazon. So I was really glad to find it for $20. It's a really good deal. Anyways, this is a survival horror game from Capcom. Back when they were still really good at making these. You're just playing as this girl who was caught in a car accident, and she wakes up in this mostly deserted castle. And she gets out of her cage. She's locked up in the cage for some reason. She gets out, and she's got to wander around and try to figure out what the heck's going on. It's very moody and atmospheric. It's so far what I've played of it. It's a great looking game. So I can't wait to dive into it more. So that is all for this week. I hope to have more games for you next week. Thanks for watching.